Hey guys, welcome into the Shadow Box. I am your host, Carlease. I am your grief and trauma coach and your shadow work guide. So today is a little bit different. I know that I have been off of the scales for about a month or so. I think our last aired recording was June 24th. So, a little bit about why I have been off the air for a little bit. My father passed away on June 30th. And so I've been dealing with my own set of grieving, right? Today is the first day that I'm actually able to get on here and give you guys a bridge in the gap, so to speak. My father passed away of a heart attack on June 30th. And it was unexpected, but he did have some heart issues. He's been having heart issues for years. And that was a big blow for me and for my family. And so we've just kind of been dealing with that, right? I would say that I have not really dealt with this hard impact of grief in about 30 years, pretty much. Yeah, my brother and sister died when I was 13 and 14. I'm 43 now. And so, as a teenager dealing with grief, for one, I really didn't know what grief was. I just knew that I suffered a loss, right? Two losses back to back, 6 months apart, my brother and sister. And during that time, I was just so much, I was activated. I was having a lot of movement. And not even in a good way, right? But I was just always going and going and going. I knew what the grief was doing to me. I knew how I felt. I knew, the heartache, but I never sat in it, right? I never sat in it. But I was very sad, right? So for years and years, up until last October, I believe, was it last October? I think it was last October, that I really just had that big breakdown, and which really was my breakthrough from losing my brother and my sister. So just imagine that 30 years of 27 years of just grief that was built up, that I was, projecting out into the world in this sad and angry and just in this manner that I didn't know how to properly control until it really took over me, right? So I haven't had this much pain and grief in, again, over 30 years. And this one is this is different. For one, it was my father. And for two, I am actually sitting in this, processing it, not allowing anything to come and distract me. The grief has been very suffocating at times. I just was not trying to cry. It has been very suffocating at times. And I've had a lot of down moments. And I wouldn't necessarily say that I don't think that I'm depressed, right? But as I got up today and I was just like dreading to get up and do whatever it is that I needed to do and to get on here and just to get out of bed, maybe I am a little bit. However, that is all a part of it, right? That's all a part of going through this process. And with me, because I am a grief coach, because I am a trauma coach, because I do this with people every day, I know that I have to give myself time to go through the process, not go through and distract myself, and not even dismiss how I feel. And so when I am, feeling so distraught and having days where I'm not getting out of bed because I'm crying, I just allow myself to go through that, right? I don't judge myself with it. And so I'm going through that process, and it's freeing because I'm allowing myself to do it, right? I'm allowing myself to cry. I'm allowing myself to make posts here and there that shows the rawness of it, shows the days where my hair is not made up and where I'm not, looking as cute as I am, right? But I am really just grateful to myself that I'm giving myself this time and that I know how to do it this time, right? And there's no cookie cutter way of grieving, because all days are not going to be the same. The days that I've had previous may not be days that show up for years to come, right? But I am learning to sit with it, and sitting with my father's passing has been has opened up a lot. So you guys hear me always say when I'm talking to my clients or talking to my guests on the podcast, how grief just kind of exposes you, right? So I've gone through my anger. I'm going through my sadness. I am, saying things that I've never said before. I am, coming to the grips of myself as a woman, just having a father who loved her so deeply, right? Which being, I say, when you have a father that loves you and chooses you every day of his life, you look at the world differently when he's no longer here. And you realize the things that he has instilled in you, and you realize the protection that you had. And so, as a woman, right, I have really, really, really come to the understanding of, and as a single woman, a single woman who's dating, and when you have a father who instills certain things in you, and you, even if you don't see it until it's in retrospect, right, you really come to a strong, firm understanding of what you will and what you will and what you won't accept from any man, right? Any man that's in your life, because your father is your guide, right? And our fathers are not perfect. They're not, we as daddy's girls, we do sometimes worship the ground that our fathers walk on, right? But when you become an adult and you start to interact with men, and you start to you're not in the midst of it. You know certain things, you learn certain things, you move a certain way. But when your father is no longer, right, no longer existing on this earth, um, I have definitely made firm decisions within myself of how I will move with any man that I date, that I decide to marry, that I interact with. And as narrow as it already was, it's even more narrow, right? And so I just say that, you know, when you have that father's love, and it's genuine and it's true and it's imperfect, there's nothing that can replace that. I have a void in me that will never, ever, ever, that nobody can ever fill. And that is the important part of me sitting and processing my grief, because I don't need a man to come and take my father's place. I don't need a man to come and give me words and fill that space of my father. I don't need anyone to raise me. I do want to be that woman who is who's doted over, who's provided for, who's taken care of, who's, who is the princess, or the, I don't even know if I want to be the queen. Treat me like the princess, right? Because the princess, listen, the princess is the princess, right? But processing this, I don't want distractions. I don't need distractions. I don't need anything from the external world to come in and fill whatever void that my father has left. Because that void, even though he's not physically here, that void is full of wisdom, full of education, full of the proper ways to see myself, full of the worth that he instilled in me. It's full of his love. It's full of his laughter, of his humor, of his character, of his traits. So it's very full, right? So I'm not trying to replace him not being here physically on this earth with me anymore. And so as I say all of that, the processing of when my brother and sister died to the processing of my father is it's it's very, very it's different in the sense because I'm sitting in it, right? But it's very deep. It's very it's gnawing. It is it has a world of its own. And um I would say that even though losing my siblings and now losing my father, loss is loss, right? But what I have come to realize is that the the loss itself is deep. It is crippling, right? And what makes the difference is because of their titles, because of the roles that they played in our lives, because of um, the meaning of father, the meaning of brother, the meaning of sister. Like at the same time, for me, I will say for me, it is very much intertwined where I can't really say that I am grieving my father more than I grieved my brother and my sister, right? I'm just recognizing it and I'm aware of it in a different way than I was prior, right? Because my brother and my sister were my world, right? My dad was my world. And so those two just collide, And so I do feel, uh, with my dad not being here anymore, I do feel a little lost. And um, that is a part that I have to sit with. That's a part that I cannot allow or try to make anyone come and save me, because when we think about that loss, you do feel like you're out in the ocean, just kind of floating, and you're just kind of looking around. Thank God I still have my mom, right? My mom is still very much here, and she has she has definitely been my rock in this. So she gets the phone calls, she gets the silent calls when I can't breathe, when all I can do is cry. She gets those calls. And I'm just very grateful that she is still here, um, because I just know the loss that I'm going to feel um, if I feel like I'm lost now, right? Um, so if you caught that, you caught that. But she's my rock, right? But losing my father has been just, has made me feel a little lost, as I said. And um, it's a lot of processing. And so what I may do is, I don't even know if I really need to do that. Of come back and do like a whole podcast of my father and everything, because I'm not going to continue to beat this over the head, right? Because it's my process. And this podcast is for you guys. But I do this podcast because I am one of you, right? And so, what I will say is that my father was one of the most loving men that I've ever met in my life. My father um, has a big heart, very kind, a smile outside of this world. And he didn't play when it came down to his children, right? And he was very smart and intelligent. And he just, he was just my dad, right? And I made a post a couple of days ago just saying that I always thought that when either myself or my father would leave this world, that it would be tied up with a nice, pretty bow. And I didn't really. I took me a long time to get that bow, to understand what it was, or to even know if it was ever going to be there, right? And I did get the bow, just realizing that, from the time I was potty trained all the way to teenage and up to my adulthood years, my father, we would take a road trip. He's originally from Oklahoma City, but he lived in Colorado. He lived in Denver. And from the time I was potty trained all the way up, I was in that car with him. It would be just me and him. I'm in the back seat. He's in the front seat, listening to all his goodies, all his old but goodies. That's how I know all these old songs, right? And so, and we would take that road trip together. And for a long time, it just, because I lived in Colorado with my dad, it was a lot of just me and him. It was me and him, and then other people coming into our world, right? And so you can only imagine how much of a daddy's girl that I was and that I am. But going into this bow, when I found out on the 29th that my father had gone into the hospital, I flew out that next morning, and I didn't get there until about 3:45, which I flew into Colorado. I got to the hospital by 3:45. I played my dad these our favorite songs, Cruisn by Smokey Robinson, If You Don't Know Me by Now by Simply Red. And I talked to him in his ear. I laid there with him. And at that point, that's when he passed away. And it was, I don't know, 35, 45 minutes, maybe 45 minutes from the time I walked into that hospital room until he passed away. And he waited on me to get there. And in that moment, I still couldn't get the pretty bow. But I was very grateful. Very, very grateful. I am very grateful. There's no buts in that. That I was there in those final moments with my dad. But the other day, I came to this whole understanding of what the bow was. So as we were making arrangements for my father to get transported back to Oklahoma City, I was, my cousin, she was originally she offered to ride the plane with my dad, to Oklahoma City, and for them to transfer him. And then maybe about a day or a few hours or a day later, my stepmother, his wife, she had said, Monique, I would like for you to go with your dad. I would like for you to ride the plane with him. And I wasn't even thinking of any of this, right? I just knew my dad needed to get transferred, and I'm making arrangements. I'm doing everything. I wasn't even thinking of any of this. But she said that do you want to, I want you to go and ride the plane with your dad. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, I will do that. So, fast forward, arrangements has gotten made. My father's transport has gotten made. I'm, my plane ticket is ready to go. So we're going to be on the plane together. Right. And that was taking off from Colorado. I watched them put him on the plane, and I watched them take him off of the plane. Leaving from Colorado was hard, and I couldn't process it. I couldn't really process it. I just knew what was happening, right? And then we get to Oklahoma. Landing was hard. And when I say hard, it was hard emotionally, because I was just crying the whole way there. The leaving and the coming, the leaving and the getting there, just crying. And we arrived, right? So the other day, as I was trying to wreck my brain with this pretty bow, it hit me. And I said, my dad literally However, it came up in my stepmom's mind for her to say, Monique, I want you to ride with your dad. And prior to that, I want to say after she told me that, then my cousin circled back around to me and said, well, do you want to do it? Right. And so I have my stepmom saying what she's saying to me. My cousin doesn't know, that this conversation is happening with me and my stepmom, because it's like close together. Right. So I haven't had time to talk to anybody. But then my cousin circles back around and says, well, Monique, do you want to take the plane ride? And so I'm like, yeah. But it dawned on me. I said, my dad did that intentionally through his spirit of saying, I want my baby to take this last ride with me. How she has all the days of her young life, she has left Colorado with me, and she has arrived in Oklahoma with me. And that is when I realized that pretty bow. That was our pretty bow. And I'm so grateful for that, because I was really struggling with this bow that I just knew was supposed to be perfect, right? And that's what it was. That bow of, I rode that plane with my daddy as they transported him to Oklahoma City. And I arrived in Oklahoma City with my daddy for his last ride to Oklahoma City. And I will forever be grateful for that. So that is what I've been experiencing and going through in a nutshell this last month or so, right? And actually, it's been exactly a month to today that we buried him. On July 7th, we buried him. So how fitting, right? Well, that's why I say all of these synchronicities that happen. I know that my dad is with me. I know that I know that he is, and that this is my brief grief story podcast, solo podcast to you guys, just letting you know that I am sitting in your chair right now. For the guests that have been on the show, to the guests that will be coming on the show, I'm sitting here right now, right? And so this is the reason that I created this podcast, because it's rawness. It is real. It is in real time, right? And we all need to speak to an audience that hears us and who understands our language. And that is what this podcast is about. And so I know that, like I said, it's been a couple of weeks. Usually guys have a podcast recording every Thursday in the morning. When you wake up, you know that there's somebody going to be on there. And I'm just coming here to bridge this and let you guys know that we're pumping back up now. We will have an actual guest starting next Thursday, and then every Thursday from there on out, right? We are still focusing on grief and your shadow self and on trauma. We will have a lot of shadow working podcast guests as well as we continue. And I am working on some things now to kind of get the channel out there. And so I'll be working with some people to help me, filter this out so we can get it to as many people as we can. And I thank you to my whole 38 people that are subscribed to this YouTube channel, and to, I think, the 27 people who are subscribed to the Spotify channel. I thank you, right? Because hey, you guys are here. You guys believe in what I do. And it's a thing, and it's a slow process, right? But it's not about the quantity of people. It's about the quality of the things that we are talking about, the realness of the things we are talking about. And I'm not talking about quality as in aesthetics, because like you see, I have a camera that autofocuses, is in and out. That's not perfect, right? There's all these little things. So quality is not necessarily perfection. Quality is bringing people under this mic in the shadow box, to speak with people about their real life experiences, so that people do not feel alone, so that people do understand that there's people that speak their language, right? And so today is Thursday, and I'm dropping this here today for our Thursday podcast. Next week, again, we'll have some new people, a new person, and we're just going to keep picking up from there. So I do have a few people that are in the queue right now to start being interviewed, to be guests, and we're just going to keep pushing this along. As far as business goes, you guys know that I'm a grief and trauma coach, and I am here in Dallas, Texas. And I will be doing a location move here pretty soon. Right now, I'm in Capel, but I will be doing an office change. So for all my locals, and it's not too far from Capel. So for all my locals, there will be some changes, some more scheduling changes and things of that nature. And you guys know my website at peaceofmind.org, where you can schedule a consult, where you can schedule your Reiki sessions, your coaching sessions, all of those things. They're all there. And the products are all there. I'm also the owner of the Chakra Box, and that's where I make chakra focused bath and body products. And it's so funny because I think the time before, when I did this, I do these festivals from time to time to sell my products. And I was talking to my dad on the way to one of them. And, my dad was 77 years old. So he's like, he's like, what is it that you sell? And I'm telling him, I'm like, and instead of me being like, oh, I sell energy healing, bath and body products or what have you, I was like, just bath salts and body oils. Oh, okay. So he was old school. He don't know nothing about that. He believed in Dow soap and what's that spray deodorant, arid, something like that. But anyway, he was old school, but he was definitely a character. But I say all of that to say you can find the services and you can find the products on my website, and subscribe, share with people that you think that will need this, right? Everyone has a unique story, and these unique stories they need to find someone, right? And I think this is kind of why I am like, not at a standstill, but I'm kind of steady when it comes to how many subscribers I have or this, that, and the other, because I'm not a huge marketer, right? I am a huge believer that the people who are supposed to cross the path are supposed to cross the path. And I don't go chasing people. I don't go chasing customers and clients, right? But I'm starting to understand that there's a little bit of a business aspect that I really have to, put myself out there more, to be seen, so that the right people, that people will know that it's at least here, right? So it's not for me to beg for them to come and beg for them to be a client, but just like, oh, I didn't know that was there. I didn't know that they were talking about these things. I didn't know that exists, right? And that's why I say, share it with people that you think, share it if you guys have grief groups, if you guys have trauma-informed groups, trauma-informed yoga, grief yoga, things of that nature. Hook them up with this channel so that they can start seeing that there are more people like them, right? And there's so many unique stories and unique people that have been on here. And we're not only talking about people from the United States, we're talking about people from Spain, from Sweden, from Croatia. They're everywhere, right? And these are people who have been on this podcast. So, no one's too far to be reached, is what I'm saying. So I thank you guys for having the patience of waiting to see what was going on, and just knowing that no, shadow box still exists. It's still very much so active. And we're just going to keep going from here. Okay. So I will see you guys on my next recording. And again, I thank you. And I thank the ones who have reached out to me and who have, just sent some encouraging words and just, been around. I appreciate you. And I know that 98.5% of the time, I am handling this by myself, right? But there is that 2% of people, that 1.5 to whatever percent of people that, my mom and a couple of other people that I do lean on, um, for this. And so, because that's just me, right? So, but that's not to say that everyone else doesn't need a bigger community or a bigger support system to help you guys get through and navigate your grieving process. Um, so that's why I say community is everything, and everyone will use the community the way that best fits them, right? So yeah, but I thank you so very much, and I look forward to you guys participating and looking into this shadow box community. And if you want to be a guest on the shadow box, just message me, and we can make that happen as well. So I thank you guys for coming in. I thank you guys for listening. And until next time, namaste.